Dust hit her face like tiny needles, but Clara did not blink. She sat frozen on the station bench, her empty bag in her lap, while the last train pulled away and left her behind in a town she did not know. The whistle faded into the hills. Silence fell hard, like a door shutting. Then, without warning, Clara stood up. She walked straight to the edge of the platform, right where the tracks curved out of sight, and she began to sing. Soft at first, then louder, an old church hymn her mother used to hum while washing clothes. Her voice cracked on the high notes, but she did not stop. Two men loading crates turned to stare. A boy selling apples froze with a coin halfway to his pocket. The station agent poked his head out the door, his mouth open. "Ma'am," he called, "you all right out there?" Clara did not answer him. She kept singing, eyes shut, tears sliding down her dusty cheeks, as if the song was the only thing holding her up. "She's touched in the head," one man muttered to the other, tapping his temple. The boy with the apples laughed nervously and looked away. But an old woman sweeping the porch of the general store stopped her broom and watched closely. She saw something the others did not. She saw a woman singing not because she was foolish, but because she was fighting. Fighting to stay standing when everything inside her wanted to fall down. Clara finished the hymn. She opened her eyes, wiped her face with the back of her hand, and sat back down on the bench, calm now, like nothing had happened. The station agent walked over slowly, unsure what to say. "That was a fine song, ma'am." "My son loved it," Clara whispered. "He is gone now, so is my husband. I have nothing left but that song." The wind picked up. Dust swirled around her worn boots, and somewhere down the road, wagon wheels began to creak closer. The wagon wheels creaked louder, closer, until they stopped right by the station fence. Clara did not look up. She was too tired to care who had arrived. But a small voice cut through the quiet. "Papa, look, is she sleeping?" Clara's eyes opened. A little girl stood a few feet away, two braids swinging, one front tooth missing. She stared at Clara with wide, curious eyes, not scared at all, just wondering. "No, sweetheart," Clara said softly, "just resting my eyes." The girl tilted her head. "You were crying, I can tell. Your face is all wet." Clara opened her mouth to explain, but nothing came out. What could she say to a child? A tall man climbed down from the wagon, his boots heavy on the dirt. "Ellie," he said firmly, "get back here. Don't bother the lady." "But Papa, she's all alone," Ellie said, not moving an inch. "She doesn't got a home. Look, she doesn't even got a bag with things in it." The man, Thomas, walked closer. He looked at Clara properly now, really looked, and something shifted in his face. He saw the torn dress, the shaking hands, the eyes that had cried until they had nothing left. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low, "you got somewhere to sleep tonight?" Clara shook her head slowly. "No, sir, nowhere at all." Ellie tugged hard on her father's sleeve. "Papa, please, she can sleep in the small room, please, please." Thomas rubbed the back of his neck, thinking hard. Out here, a man did not just bring strangers home. But something about this woman, this quiet, broken stranger, would not let him walk away. "Ma'am," he said finally, "it ain't right, a lady sleeping at a station alone. We got a small room just for tonight." Clara's throat tightened. "I could not ask that of you, sir." "You ain't asking," Thomas said, almost smiling. "My girl already offered for you." Clara looked at Ellie, whose gap-toothed smile shone bright in the fading light. Something cold inside Clara's chest cracked, just a little, and let a small warmth in. The ranch felt peaceful for many days. Then, one afternoon, dark clouds rolled over the hills, and with them came the sound of hooves. Many hooves moving fast. Clara looked up from the garden, her hands still in the dirt. Ellie froze beside her, clutching a handful of weeds. "Papa," Ellie shouted, running toward the house. Thomas stepped out onto the porch just as 5 riders pulled up at the fence. Their leader, a hard-faced man named Silas Crane, sat tall on his horse, his eyes cold as winter. "Hail," Silas called out. "Still here. Thought you'd have packed up by now, all alone on this land." Thomas walked forward slowly, his rifle resting in his hands, pointed at the ground but ready. "I ain't alone, Silas, and this land ain't for sale. Not now, not ever." Silas's eyes moved past Thomas. He saw Clara standing near the door, Ellie pressed close behind her. A slow, ugly smile spread across his face. "Well, well," he said. "Didn't take long to find a new woman, did it?" Clara's heart pounded hard in her chest. Her hands trembled, but she did not step back. She placed a protective hand on Ellie's shoulder and stood tall, surprising even herself. "Get off this land," Thomas said, his voice low and steady, like thunder far away but coming closer. Nobody moved. The wind blew dust between the two groups. Ellie grabbed Clara's hand and squeezed it tight. "It will be all right," Clara whispered to her, though her own voice shook. "I promise you." Silas stared at Thomas for a long, tense moment. Then he spat on the ground. "This ain't over, Hale," he growled. He pulled his horse around hard and the riders galloped off, leaving only dust behind. Clara let out a shaky breath she did not know she was holding. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "Maybe my being here made things worse for you." Thomas turned to her, his eyes soft now despite the tension still in his shoulders. "No, ma'am. Silas wanted this land long before you came. Having you here, it reminded me why this home is worth protecting." Weeks passed, and the ranch slowly filled with warmth again. One evening, Clara tucked Ellie into bed, pulling the old quilt up to her chin. Ellie looked up, her small face suddenly serious. "Clara," she whispered, "could I call you something else? Something like Mama?" Clara's breath caught in her throat. Tears rushed to her eyes so fast she could not stop them. She thought of her own son, gone too soon, and how empty her arms had felt every single day since. "Oh, sweetheart," Clara whispered, pulling Ellie into a tight hug. "I would be so honored. Yes, you may call me that." From the doorway, Thomas watched quietly. His own eyes shone bright in the candlelight, though he said nothing. Later that night, after Ellie had fallen fast asleep, Thomas found Clara sitting alone on the porch, looking up at the wide, star-filled sky. "May I sit?" he asked softly. "Of course," Clara said, moving over. They sat together in silence for a while, crickets singing in the tall grass around them. "Clara," Thomas said finally, "when I found you at that station, I saw a woman who had lost everything. I know that feeling well. I lived it too after my wife passed." Clara nodded slowly, her eyes still on the stars. "I felt the same. I thought my life was over. I thought nothing was left for me." "And now?" Thomas asked quietly, turning to look at her. Clara turned too, and for the first time in over a year, something warm bloomed fully in her chest. "Now," she said softly, "I think some doors close only so better ones can open. I lost my family, but at that station with nothing left, I found a new one." Thomas reached over and gently took her hand. "Would you stay, Clara, not just for a season, for good, as my wife if you would have me?" Clara's tears fell freely now, but she smiled through them, wider than she had in over a year. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Thomas, I would be honored." Above them the stars shone steady, watching over a family finally made whole.